House, thank God. We're gonna call to order right now. We're exactly 6 minutes late, 7 minutes late. I apologize. Traffic on Vietnam veterans at 65 is like. First order of business here. We've looked through the attendances. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes review. It's been a minute since we had a meeting. I think it was October 5. And if anybody doesn't see anything, we'll entertain a motion to approve. Okay, a motion and second's been had. Are you gonna write that down?
Sure.
David Dahlner made the motion, and then Mr. Tommy has the has the second. Moving forward, we have the next thing is officer elections. And I think it would be best right now if we would entertain nominations for the chairman.
I make a motion to stay like they are.
I believe, David, that we can do that if everybody wants to stay where they are. We can, everybody can be elected by acclamation. Would you not agree?
We'll need to vote on a secretary because
Well,
the person who was is no longer with us.
I understand, and so we're gonna you and I will stay as is. So what we'll do on that one is we'll entertain that motions or that a nomination cease and you and I be reelected by acclamation. Do I have a motion or do I have a somebody make a? Okay. All right, you got a second. All right, so the same two, motion and second. So now we have a deficit of a secretary. And at this point in time, we would like to entertain motions for a secretary. If anybody would like to make any nominations, I'd appreciate that. Will there be any nominations? Would there be any nominations? Anybody make a nomination?
I make a nomination for her.
Okay, so it appears that Rosalie has been nominated, and is there any other nominations? I guess not. So at this point, we will have the nomination cease and Rosalie be elected by acclamation. Rosalie, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
Okay, is anybody opposed? All right, motion carried. So Rosalie is now our secretary. Is that pleasing to you, David?
That's the will of the body. That's what we'll do.
All right, fantastic. So then now that officer elections are done, we will open up for discussions, bullet point number 5. So we have an update from Mr. Gregory here. And so we'll start moving forward from there.
I have a lot of paper to throw at you, so bear with me. There were a couple of attachments in the email that Amy sent out. The 2-page is lifted from Cheatham County. We did that about 3 years ago. As far as I know, it's still pretty current. I don't remember hearing any significant changes in it, and it's fairly thorough. The 1-page is lifted from Goodletts, and it, as far as I know, is still current. And if you notice the 2, there are a number of zoning districts affected by all the different use categories, and that's what I need some help with. The one from Cheatham County and the one from Goodletts will both have use categories for the most part. The top, if you look at permanent residential, breaks it out into separate uses, which is understandable for the different zones that are affected by the different uses. But they get combined into categories below that, starting with community facilities. And each one of those, for the most part, is a collection of individual uses. It's not just one standalone use. And in doing that, you can make the matrix readable and usable. What I'm faced with here in trying to combine the 2 ordinances, and I will pass out what I have run into and what I have come up with. I put together a matrix for the county and the city, and it is on 2 pages, it's like the Cuban counties. It's the same template, but I have adapted it to the uses in Hartsville and Charles County.
Thank you.
And the P is permitted, S is special exception, and blank is not permitted. So if you run down the list, you see where the uses are populated on the matrix. And there are gaps there, like in M1. I didn't try to fill out M1, and I'll show you in a second what I run into. It's C1, M1, and M2 in the county. It's a little easier in the city, but there are still gaps, even in that category. What I don't have a way of doing on my own, and I don't want to do it on my own. I need help with that. I've gone through the breakout users that are, and I didn't even load M1 onto the list because it's.
David, are you watching this online? Hey, David.
No, I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you're watching online. Okay, there you go. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
The M1 list is pretty extensive. And what I need you all to help me with is the idea of consolidating these individual uses. If you look at C1 in the county, I can't find a corollary for professional services. It's too broad. There's nothing that I can come up with that ties that down to a particular category. The column on the left is my best effort to assign an SIC, Standard Industrial Code, to that particular use. And it gets difficult because it's a lot of times it's old language and it's trying to do too many things. If you look down to about the 5th line in C1, it has all of those uses: drugs, antiques, books, sporting goods, garden supplies, jewelry, fuel, and ice, which all fall within the general merchandise category. But that is one line in the C1 permitted use list. If you look in your zoning ordinance under C1 and go down through like the 20-something uses, it has a breakout for categories, but it also has these breakout individual uses. So what I'm asking is, are you comfortable with, do you want me to put things like electrical goods in wholesale sales and just build up that category and mention those uses? And within C1 in this matrix, where it says wholesale sales, you go to the, going to be on the 2nd page. Down nearly to the bottom, it's about 2/3 of the way down, where it says wholesale sales, there would be a, in this case, P in the C1 column or permitted, where now it says permitted is electrical goods. That's a wholesale sales use. Groceries and related products is wholesale sales. It doesn't say grocery store. It says groceries and related products. Motor vehicles and automotive equipment, wholesale sales. And that's in the C1 category. I'm trying to convert that into something that makes sense, because right now, that's
And retail sales is out the door.
it doesn't make sense that all these wholesale uses are stuck in the C1 district.
Not at all.
And that's what it's doing. So farm products, drugs, chemicals, allied products, apparel and accessories. When I go back into my mother document, the category listings in Goodlettsville, I find wholesale sales. So that should be converted to farm product or retail farm product sales,
Retail and wholesale.
can be. Can be, it'll get if we do it that way, it'll get a P for retail, it'll get a P for wholesale.
Because if you're a distributor of some sort,
Mhm.
I don't know if it'd be auto parts or whatever, you're going to sell
Mhm.
at the will call counter, somebody walks in, but then also if Hartsville Tire and Alignment sends a guy over some tie rod ends, he's gonna buy it wholesale,
Same counter,
same counter. There's a wholesale client list and there's a
Right.
retail client. list.
right. And I don't care to get into individual sales at the front door.
Right,
When we see this list, really the only time it's going to apply is when somebody's building a new building. Or when they come in and say, can I do this here? And you go to this list, and if it says you can do motor vehicle sales in C1, they're good. But if it doesn't list, if it doesn't say that, then they're in the wrong zone. They need to be somewhere else. And this is in the county, and that's something else that I need a little bit of guidance on. A lot of these uses are special to the county, where for the most part, there's not going to be a public sewer system to support all these uses. So I think whoever put it together went overboard in trying to anticipate the types of retail uses that are going to be out in the county, not attached to a public sewer, if that makes sense. They're going to concentrate in town. All your retail sales are going to be on sewer. All your wholesale sales are going to be on sewer, if they can. They're not going to be stuck out in Cato on a septic tank. But what I'm trying to do is make these individual uses, the other list of uses, I don't have any trouble with. They're straightforward. I've already got them plugged in. And this list is 2-page list. If you go down it, where there are P's and S's, that's lifted from the ordinance, county and city. So they're already plugged in. What I'm having trouble with is the individual uses that are shown in C1, C2, I1, M1 in the city and the county breakout. And I don't know how to resolve that. I'm not given that charge when I put it together for you. I'm trying to take what's here and do it in as transparent a way as I can and make it fit with what my charge is, what my responsibility is. But I don't want to overstep that. Where it says number 14, for instance, in C1 in the county, where it says professional services. I don't know what that is. I can't find it in the standard industrial code classification because it's too broad. There are all kinds of professional services.
dry cleaning is a professional service,
An attorney,
an attorney.
accountant, architect, you name it. There are all kinds of professional services. But it's a permitted use. I just don't know how to categorize it.
Landscapers are,
Absolutely,
and that they're gonna have to have a place to store.
absolutely. So,
What did you say?
Landscapers. And they require, they got skid steers and backhoes and all that stuff, so I mean,
that's a too broad
that's
category.
way too broad. What do you think, David?
Well, that's what I was thinking about when it says professional use. Anyone who gets paid to do a job is professional.
And
It's
they're
that.
professional services,
Yes, I mean, it's a broad. I mean, yeah, we're open to just about any interpretation of that.
to be honest with you, a strip club is professional service because they're not selling you anything, they're providing a service, entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, a good lawyer would get that beat in a minute. You couldn't stop them.
I did want to ask Rick, Have you gotten all the updated, ordinance changes that we've done last year? Including the adult entertainment that we passed?
No,
Cause we need to get that needs to get to you. Rosalie, could you help him with that?
Sure. Now, I believe, didn't we send you the mining? In Corin amendment that we had where it restricts it to like M1, M2.
we talked about it, but I didn't
Okay.
get it.
Got it.
And I'm working off this old ordinance, so when I get everything plugged in. It'll be time for us to go through it
Got it.
and make sure that it's current. It doesn't have a breakout for adult use or mining. And mining and quarry, if you notice, is at the bottom of page 2, it doesn't have a category assigned to it, it doesn't have a district assigned to it.
On the matrix that was accepted last year, only by special exception, these are the ones that we received from GNRC, and I can send you a copy of that.
I haven't spent any time on it, and I don't need to.
Okay,
Now, I appreciate what they did, but I know what's in this one,
got it.
and
I understand.
I,
It might not be the easiest.
yeah, that's right, I'm comfortable with this one.
Yes, sir.
But back on professional services, if I can, if you look through the different categories that sort of parent to these lists, you get into convenience, commercial, entertainment, amusement services, financial, consultative, and administrative service, general business communication service, general personal service, general retail trade. There are all sorts of uses that are assigned to those different categories. Medical services, for example, chiropractor, consulting scientist, dental office, optometrist, physicians, psychologists are all categorized under medical service. That's a professional service, but professional service is too broad. So I guess I'm asking, do you want to just not recognize that broad category that really doesn't have a place in here when we put all the uses together and just leave it behind? Because there will be from the other uses that are already there, like personal services, business services, I can assign those. But I don't know how to do professional service.
So when you're looking at professional services, we already have all of those other occupations listed so that the professional, if you just omit that, it's all covered anyway.
I think so. I think so. Like, there are lots of other places where things that I would think of as a professional service, just like we talked about an architect or an attorney or an accountant,
And it's different.
they're going to be plugged into an office use.
Correct.
One thing, I did read this and I wanted to bring this up where it says wireless communication facilities. As far as A1 and R out in agricultural areas, that. What does that do for putting a cellular repeater tower out somewhere?
Repeater.
Well, a cell tower
Okay.
out in A1, because that's where they're gonna go.
Right.
We have
And
those in one right now.
I know, and it's not on the matrix.
the list, well, it is. The list that I put together, if you'll look down,
I guarantee we have more of that coming.
look at M2, sort of in the middle of the page.
Telecommunications.
Mhm.
Okay, it may not be, I understand this may not be on the matrix, but it's permitted.
If you look at this group of listings in the ordinance in the county in M2, it says telecommunication facilities are a special exception in M2. I've got it plugged in down and it's bolted. I've got it plugged in wireless communications facilities on page 2, about 2/3 of the way down in M2.
Okay.
As a permitted use. But if you look back at number 13 in the list, it's permitted. If you look in the special exceptions, it's listed as a special exception. So it's in there twice. So the question is, which do you want? Do you want it as a special
Permitted.
exception?
I would think it would need to be permitted instead of special exception, would you not, Rosalie?
Actually, I think we have stuff in our ordinances that address the telecommunication where they always had to go before the BCA in order to be approved.
Doesn't everything be nice?
Not necessarily, that would. Wireless. Because they have to meet so many different things.
They bring the plans to us. I know the deal, they had to go to BZA, but they also come to us too,
Yeah, with the site plan,
with a site plan.
after the BCA.
One other question that I've got. If there's a point to it, what is the overall height that something can be built in city limits?
Towers are exempt. Church spires, things like that are not occupied structure, are usually exempt. From height restrictions.
Non-occupied structures. Inside the city limits, okay, because
Water tanks,
some things are 38 feet, can't build nothing higher than 38 feet than inside the city limits, and there's. I don't see us getting a high rise of, anything over 4 stories yet, but
It's kind of,
it's coming. If we build a hotel over here and it's 4 stories, it might be 12 foot higher than what the.
But then the hotel is occupied. And that's all going to be going to the state fire marshal's office because it's out of the city.
If you look in the ordinances, I believe it's both for the city and the county. It's 3 stories, 30 foot is the tallest a building can be in Trousdale County.
That's what I was looking for.
That doesn't include, water towers, cell phone towers. That's just structure, that's just buildings. If I've read that correctly.
So an antenna tower can be 40 feet or 50 feet or anything like that.
As long as it has a ball radius around it of equal proportion,
Sure.
but yeah. And to add to the discussion, if I'm not mistaken, the telecommunications has always been counted as a utility when it's come before planning or BZA, which allows it to be in any of the zonings as a utility.
it's not set up that way that I read it, David.
Okay.
It's either a permitted use as an intermediate impact use or special exception, depending on which zone it's in.
I remember when the last site plan came through. Once again, I hate having to use GNRC as the example, but they were the advising body and told us that it was counted as a utility and we had no way of regulating it other than its appearance.
No, they're telling you the truth. That's exactly right. They said what the courts have said. You can enforce setbacks. You can enforce the screening, like landscaping, things that cover the facilities on the ground. But the height of the tower, the location of the tower, not necessarily where it's on the property, you can enforce setbacks like ball radius and that kind of thing, but you can't say no. You can't say to a cell provider that you can't be here because. And they are treated, I won't say like a utility, but much like a utility. They're going to be permitted. The courts are going to say, yes, you can go there where they choose to be, so long as they've got, a reason to be there. If they've got background saying that they need service in this particular location. That's all they have to have. That's all the proof they need when they get to court with it.
It says here in our ordinances, under the standards for telecommunication antennas and towers, is that The height limitation applicable to buildings and structures shall not apply to towers and antennas.
Correct.
But that being said, Rick, then there's really no point having it in special exceptions. Because it's going to be allowed by a judge in any district.
I would argue that, yes, strongly. It builds, I think when you put it as a special exception, it's almost like they're coming in asking permission. And,
Yeah.
and they're not, as, you know, you have a set of standards for them to go by. And that can go to the planning commission. I mean, you can set it up, they don't have to do that, but they go to the planning commission with their plans, with their site plan, their location and everything that goes with it. And that's treated just like any other site plan, like a discount tobacco store or a tire store, anything else. It's there as a site plan for review, and as long as they meet the standards that are set out in the ordinance, then they should be approved and a permit should issue, assuming that they do everything that the standards require. So, yeah, taking it out of a special exception, I think would be a wise move. It just takes away one more, potentially one more trip to court.
And at that point, we're not changing any ordinance, we're just getting it in line with current law.
That's right. That's exactly right. Saving yourself the trouble. It builds false hope. I mean, when you go to the appeals board and you notify neighbors that there's a cell tower coming up, you know, some people are likely to come out and say, we don't want it next door to us. We don't want a cell tower. I love having my cell phone work wherever I am, but I don't want the tower next door to me. It happens.
Oh, yeah. They live on a pipe, but
Exactly. But taking it out of special exception doesn't
why go
hurt the process.
on like an apartment? How high can they build?
3 stories.
30?
Yeah.
What if somebody wants to build 4? Or, you know, big, how, if they got parking?
If I'm not mistaken, it says shall not be taller than, so.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can't.
Okay. I'm surprised that somebody had,
So if a developer came in and wanted to build a 4-story building, what kind of hoops would he have to jump to it?
Well, if
That would have, ordinance would have to be changed more from to do it.
the board doesn't grant relief on a variance request, then the ordinance would have to change for that to take place. And if you don't have a fire apparatus to fight something over 3 stories, that's usually where the
I don't think.
limitation comes in.
Right now.
Well, we can probably cover 3, but we can't cover anything higher.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. Thank you. And I didn't mean to get us on any kind of a rabbit hole, but I did the cell tower thing. There's, like I said, there's a reason for it, for antenna towers and cell towers and things of that nature.
The good news is big towers are pretty much going away. They're going to small cells. And if you pay attention when you're driving around, you can see some of the new ones. I've spotted a few. They don't come in and ask, they just attach them to a pole. They're on a utility pole or some fixed structure somewhere. And the goal that I've heard is that they're looking for, 1,000-foot coverage. Where the big towers, the 300 footers used to be like a 5-mile radius. Now they're looking for 1,000 feet and small cell apparatus to cover that with. So they won't be, for the most part, I think they won't be coming in asking for the tall
And
towers.
how I was concerned, how was concerning or not concerned, interested to find out how this would pertain to shortwave 10 meter, 40, once up to 160 meter wavelength, radio towers, how does that fall in here? Because 10 to 160 is really common.
It would probably fall under the telecommunications standards in the ordinance.
Because a lot of those are going to be 70 and higher.
And if they're, what's the number, 200 or greater, they gotta have
Clear sites on them.
Yeah. FAA comes in.
They gotta be geomapped. All righty, all right, so,
Well, my biggest question is, my biggest hurdle is, yeah, and pardon my hand scratching, that was the easiest way to do it. Are you comfortable with assigning these individual uses that show up in the different categories now into the categories that best contain, that best illustrate what they are, like marina and yacht club? I don't see that as being a burden on a neighbor if someone wants to come in with a marina or yacht club. But it's assigned to the intermediate impact facilities, which generally is going to be in one of the industrial zones. It's a pretty heavy use because intermediate impact is going to have things that generate a lot of traffic, a lot of noise, sometimes a lot of dust activity to go along with it. So that's where it shows up. It's not my choice. It pulls out of the mother document and winds up in intermediate impact. So if you are comfortable with, or if you tell me to assign down in C1 in the city, office supply store is a standalone use in the list of permitted uses. That's a general retail use.
mhm,
So is a florist. So is office supply and sporting goods. So all those can show up in the matrix as a general use, and they show up in the use category when you go to that to find what uses are allowed. And it's going to say general retail includes the retail sales or rental from the premises primarily for personal or household use of goods and or services, but excluding goods and services listed in the other classifications herein. So it's trying to be limiting. It's got department stores, dairy product stores, camera stores, bakeries, grocery stores, luggage shops, liquor stores. There's only one district that lists liquor stores in the zoning ordinance. So I would take that out
mhm.
and leave it as a separate line in the matrix, because it's only there in one place.
You know, and I see printing, publishing, engraving, I mean, that could be all that's retail as well as.
Depends on how big it is. It can be retail. I mean, and 3D printing is coming along now, so it can be done, in a phone booth if you have to. It doesn't take up any space. So,
Yep, we already have a printing facility here in Hartsville, and it is an industrial. So it really does depend on the size of the company, to what zone they would fit in. I don't know how you would separate that out. Do you have any ideas?
the best I can say, David, is that those uses that show up in intermediate impact, for instance, they need to be separated from things like general retail. And the use category will take care of that, I believe. I'm just trying to figure a way to get all these uses that are now separated.
Question about the professional services. If we limit that any more than the general statement, we're actually changing the ordinance, and that would need to be voted on by the full commission. So the only suggestion I can make, and the rest of the committee, please discuss this, is you would just have to go down the list, and everything that is professional services would be permitted. And then we need to address this at another time of how do we want to change that language, and do we want to be more restrictive?
Well, I guess I would go at it a different direction and assign those uses that show up in use categories ordinarily and leave the ones that don't fit into a use category as a standalone for you to take action on, to vote on, like professional service. I don't know what that is. I can't find it. I can't define it. I can't plug it into
That one's extremely vague.
the rest of them. from the top of that list on down, the rest of them pretty much define themselves. I don't have so much trouble with most of them. There may be still one or two that show up, but for the most part, they're gonna take care of themselves. I couldn't find where to put tailor shop. I don't have a category at the bottom of the page. I don't have a category for that one. But it's,
Tailor, dry cleaner and laundromats would be on.
yeah, but the SIC code, I guess, is so old. Tailor shop, the description there is so old, it doesn't show up today. And, you know, I've seen them described as haberdashery.
It's just been saying, you know,
So it's not quite that old, but still tailor shop is one of those uses that I didn't understand why it was in an industrial district to start with. But it
I mean,
is,
that would fall under, like I said, laundromat,
Yeah.
seamstress.
Yeah, because a tailor wouldn't be necessarily a shirt factory or,
that's
you
right,
know, the boot factory that were industrial.
that's right. There's all kinds of retail uses that show up in the industrial districts. And I didn't even put the list in for M1. It was bigger than
Mhm.
necessary. So, you know, if you're comfortable with that, I can go through and plug these uses into a category and leave you with the description like I've broken out here, where they belong. The rest of them are gonna take care of themselves. Like, if you get into the city listing for, where am I, R3, all these special exception uses are already there, they're broken out. R3 already has intermediate impact facilities. Cemeteries, colleges, country clubs, golf courses, radio, TV transmission facilities, all that's already there as a special exception in R3. But I couldn't figure a way without some help
Right,
to plug this stuff in. So tell me if I'm on the right track, if that makes sense. If you like what you hear, I can put it together in a matrix and leave a record of what happened and how to go about it. And yeah, I need a up-to-date zoning ordinance. This is the one that I had when I was here. And it's got a little bit of age on it.
I think I sent you the one that had the written cover on it. It's online. I'll go ahead and
I
send it
think
to you.
David handed them out when we first started this too. So I've got a copy of it, but if there are things that have happened since that
Got it,
need to be in there, that would be helpful too.
certainly.
So Rick, going forward with this, once we have actually document to present to the full commission.
Yes.
I think that would be a good time. My thoughts on that, and I'd like to hear the committee's opinion on this. I'd like to present it to them during work session for a couple of months. Bring it, you know, and let the commission be thinking about it and working on it and giving feedback before we take it to an actual commission meeting and have any votes on it.
Sure.
That way we can kind of break out some of this stuff, because if we just ask them, well, what would you like? They're not going to give us any answers. It's going to be absolute silence. No one's going to chime up, or you'll have someone chime up saying, well, we shouldn't do anything because we need to be pro-business and not regulate anything.
Yeah. It's like trying to get a drink from a fire hose.
It is. But if we give them, you know, we give them an opportunity to think about it and then give them a suggestion, then they have something just to vote yes or no.
and correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but, and lady, I honestly think when this does come for a vote, it may not hurt to have Rick there to answer questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would agree.
Sometimes you or I or Rosalie answering the questions doesn't appease.
That handful, yeah.
Yes,
And Rick has the experience and kind of that authority behind him to put a little more emphasis on what he's saying.
100%.
And he was the resource. for many,
Exactly.
many, many years, and he knows this county.
And I see us having greater success when it comes time for these votes. To have our expert witness.
Well, remember too that when the county went metro, the subdivision regulations were consolidated.
Yeah.
You've always had one document since the charter for metro was adopted with your subdivision regulations. It covers city and county. But because of what we've been talking about and we've run into, I can see why they didn't do the zoning ordinance, because it takes time and effort.
Yeah.
Subregs are, it's a set of instructions. It's this, it's this, it's this. Pavement is this deep, sidewalk is this wide, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But all this is law. And it's different. But yeah, I'll be glad to have.
Okay, so his question is how do we feel about him going forward and plugging these where they need to be plugged?
Correct.
I mean, I'm in agreement. Anybody else got anything on that?
I agree with you.
That eliminates him being at a stalemate, and then we take a look at the overall when he's done. It's easy to take and pluck one or two items and move them as needed, opposed to looking at this as the funnel is quite wide, David. And
I'm aware.
I mean, I'm in agreement of giving him the authority to plug these where they need to go, and then we'll come into a review when he's done.
Motion.
Yeah, so I need a motion on that.
You got it.
You have a second?
Second.
Same two suspects on the motion and second. Are you good with this, David?
At this point, I'm not a voting member. I'm just listening. So this is on y'all.
Well, I was welcoming your input on this.
Oh, no, as far as my input, yeah, I think that's exactly what we need to do.
We need to make his life easier as he's helping making our life easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. So, the next thing is, Mr. Gregory, do you have anything else you need to bring forward?
Just an exhibit. This is the next thing that goes with the use matrix. It's a breakout for bulk, density, setbacks, all that. And you find it in one location. And there will be another table for commercial and industrial. And it just collects all the information from the different districts and puts it in one place. And this is just an exhibit. This is also from Cheatham County. And it just lists the different districts and the specifics for those districts in one location. You don't have to go hunting through individual districts into the ordinance itself. So what you will wind up with will look much like this. It'll have the minimum lot size, setbacks, the lot widths, all that. And I don't need any action on that. It's sort of like doing the subdivision regulations. It's there. It's just a matter of how many boxes do I need to show it in the matrix.
So the other thing, Rick, that we need to think about is the matrix that we have in place was put in place by ordinance. And therefore that matrix, the pre-existing one that we have from GNRC is law. So the matrix that you're doing will have to have, we would have to have a vote from the full commission to alter that, right?
Well, what it winds up being is an appendix and a table that goes with the adoption of the ordinance, just like the use matrix. It'll show up as an appendix. I would suggest moving the flood regulations, the flood district, to an appendix, so that you don't have to bother the body of the ordinance when a new flood regulation comes along.
It's just an amendment.
Yeah, they'll issue those once every 10 years or so. You'll get a new set of regulations for flood zones and all that from FEMA through Tennessee, through the state. And you don't have to pull the body of the ordinance into it. You just adopt the new appendix and stick it in. This will work the same way. It's a table, it's a part of the ordinance, but it's an appendix. It doesn't have to affect the rest of the ordinance. It's a standalone part of it. So I guess what I'm saying, David, is when you adopt the ordinance itself, this will be attached to it as an appendix. The use matrix and the bulk tables that express the size of the lots, the setbacks, all that good stuff goes with it. It'll all be one package deal at the end of it, if that's the will of the body to adopt everything. And that will replace the tables and the matrix that you have now.
So we're not overriding or changing, we're just rearranging the information into an easier system.
That's my hope. And at the time that the ordinance is adopted, it will replace whatever is there today. Nothing changes until it's adopted.
Yes.
Now, how would you differentiate between like the county setbacks and the city setbacks?
Just like what's in this table, the matrix,
Okay,
where you have two sets of columns.
sure.
It'll be, like I said, it depends on how many boxes I can fill that are still readable. If you get them down to a size 4 font, they're not readable. That doesn't work. So
I'm with you.
the trick is to get it as compact as you can and show as much as you can. That's what I like about the Goodlettsville matrix. I think it's I mean, that's a lot. It's still readable.
Mhm.
It's one page. I'm working for Marshall County. Theirs is 9 pages.
Oh,
Oh,
my.
smart.
That's my challenge, is to keep it as compact and usable as possible. Theirs got out of hand. They had a matrix one time that was pretty compact, and they've got a breakout for blacksmith shop. Now I know there are horses and stables in Marshall County, but there's one district that shows up in their matrix with blacksmith shop. Why? I don't know, but it's full of those breakouts that go in one district. So my challenge there is to try to pull all that together, like we're talking about here. You know, where does that blacksmith shop go? Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing.
It may well.
That not everybody can be about.
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But I mean, that's an example, but it can get away from you if you're not careful. It can go from 1 or 2 pages to however many really fast. Well, now it's my turn to be quiet.
So, do we have anything else we need to bring forward?
Not tonight. I saw the item about fire coverage, and that's been an ongoing conversation, but I don't have anything on that one.
Does anybody else? have any fire coverage? Wanna bring forward? What was that you had, David? This morning, I did.
Talking with the planning commission and our marshal for Charleston County, the consensus coming out of planning was having access to a 6-inch water line.
Correct.
With 500 gallons per minute flow rate and a fire hydrant 500 foot.
500 gallons and 20 pounds residual.
Yeah. That's what we use in the our subdivision regulations to go by, and that was the consensus that's the implied, when we say fire protection, that's the implied definition. So that's what we should go with. There were some discussions about buildings that wouldn't have access to that, but would be a self-sufficient sprinkler system with their own reservoir. But that's going into the structure, not the plot of land.
And
And so,
that's where the discussion started. It was a breakout for lot sizes based on fire protection.
yes. So keeping it to the definition of the subject matter at hand, I'm in agreement with the planning commission of just having it regulated to the access to a fire hydrant and the water supply by the 6-inch water line. Seems fitting.
So that language needs to be in the zoning ordinance, just doesn't change the way it's set up today.
So we didn't say that they could have it be sprinkled and not meet that fire protection?
Well, see, that was the discussion back and forth that the fire marshal was throwing in there, but that's talking about a structure. That's not talking about a property, and zoning only pertains to the property. So if a person, if you do that, you allow a person to break up the property because they say they're going to build a structure with its own sprinkler system, and then they don't, well, it's still rezoned and broken up to that size. I didn't see it. I don't see a way of holding the property owner accountable. And for that reason, I think, and that's just my opinion, that we just leave it to the access of the property, not any structure on, to be built or could be built on the property.
If I remember it, David, the only place it shows up in the ordinance is in the agricultural district in the county. And today, it says that minimum area per dwelling with public water and fire protection is 2 acres. With public water supply is 3 acres, and without public water is 4 acres. Well, that's, to my knowledge, that's the only place it shows up.
Okay, so that is only talking about the dwelling on a certain lot size then.
It's actually talking about the creation of the lot itself. The location of the structure comes in with the setbacks, and they also recognize fire protection. But I don't find it anywhere else in the ordinance. I don't find fire protection as being a guiding requirement in R1 or R2. It breaks out either public water or without public water.
And in the building office, the discussion that is typically had is like, somebody wants to cut off, some property for someone to build on, someone of their family, what is the smallest that they can go? Well, we tell them, 2 acres, if you have the fire protection,
Yeah.
which is, a nearby fire hydrant and things of that nature. So if we say, they have to have sprinklers, if they choose to do sprinklers, then they can cut off 2 acres with the building permit.
Well, what I would suggest is the few places that it's mentioned in the agricultural district in the county is to put an asterisk beside fire protection and just drop that in the section that it's requiring fire protection to have a lot size that small and leave it at that. That's the only place it applies. So that's the only place it would make sense to have it. And that can be in this matrix that we put together. Just have an asterisk,
Yeah.
right? And it'll say, where this one says with public water and sewer, it'll mimic with public water and fire protection. And have another row for agricultural, county agriculture. That's the only place it shows up, and then put an asterisk there and explain it at the bottom of that page. And I think it'll work fine that way. I just need the particulars on how the planning commission defined it. We can drop that in on that table.
And like, my concern with the sprinkler system is when they find out how much that costs, we end up with, yeah, I wanna do that, they get it rezoned, as the lot cut down. And then they found out how much it costs, and now we have these small lots that you can only build a dwelling with a sprinkler system on, and no one can afford to do it. But I had a problem with the rezoning we did on the property at 25 and Sulphur College there on the corner, where we were gonna do the subdivision, and they were gonna pay for sewer line and a pump station. So we went ahead and rezoned it. Well, there's no sewer line and pump station, but the property's already been rezoned for, what is it, Rosalie, is it R2 or R3? They got rezoned to for the subdivision that they never built.
I think it's R2. I know, they're thinking about now just dividing it up into 4 lots and doing septic, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it may be R3. That was right when I first started. That's like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
A little bit longer, they'll have to redo it. Every 5 years, have you review plan.
Yep.
That's my concern with putting the sprinkler, and that's the only concern I have. I mean, so
But
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, if they're looking to purchase a 2-acre lot, and then, you know, they're gonna know, because typically they'll call the building office, what can I build here? And they'll be given that information, whether or not, you know, they need to have a sprinkler system in order to build a house there. So, I mean, you know, how detailed do we need to be for the consumer? I mean, it's the consumer's choice whether or not to buy the property.
I think you ought to just leave it out. Not even mention that about spring. They
Okay.
want to put it in, let them put it in.
Or leave it
On
as
their
an
own.
exception.
Yeah, just let them do it on their own. Well, they, like you said, they're gonna turn around and not do it.
But then you have a 2-acre lot, and then what are you gonna do?
That's what I'm concerned about is having very small unbuildable lots because no one can afford to put a sprinkler system on the dwelling.
Most places all over the county, none of them have enough water pressure to have sprinklers anyway.
If you got enough water pressure for your garden hose, you got enough for a sprinkler system. That's what they say.
I don't know.
Okay. That's true. But when they get the new tower in, I understand they won't be, they're nowhere counted
To
at
the
all,
full public commission
it'll be heavy.
to be added to it.
The new one that built 2 million gallons.
I know that there was a lot of discussion about, even like new builds requiring sprinkler systems. Back, how many years ago
He
was
said
that?
they turned it down.
Yeah, that got shut down.
About new homes, requiring them to do sprinkler systems.
Oh, that was rabbit hole.
Pressure regulator. They'll tear it.
So,
Your predecessor. Started that one. Didn't?
No, that was Dwight as the fire chief and the chairman, I believe, started that with support from our predecessor. But yeah, the full commission shot that down pretty quickly.
As they
They did
should.
not want that to be a requirement, and they took that out of the building codes when we passed it, or when y'all passed it.
yeah, the 2018 acceptance of the ICC. Gotcha.
So I guess y'all would need to discuss, you know, if you want sprinklers in there or not. And if someone will make a motion on it, you kind of in this discussion so we can move forward from it. But I'm not acting chairman tonight. I'm just giving my 2 cents.
No, you're welcome. So. Rosalie, you have a motion?
Am I allowed? I'm not
Yeah.
a voting member.
You're secretary, that's right. You're not a voting member.
Well, no, I'm not a voting member.
That's right. That's true. Do I have a motion anywhere?
What? Now, what do y'all want to do?
David, state your
So it'd be just to have the definition of fire protection and the agricultural would be listed as the 6-inch line with the 500 gallons per minute and access to a fire hydrant within 500 feet.
Sounds good.
Is that your motion?
Uh-huh.
Do we have a second? Well, all right. Ditto on that one, David.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe sprinklers,
Leave the
Sprinkle
sprinkler.
it out there. If they wanna put them in there, let them put them in there. If they don't, then they'll let them have
So,
a smaller lot or whatever.
so all those that are voting aye.
Yes,
Okay.
motion carried. That leaves us, yeah. I think we're all in agreement on that, are we not?
That's just something, you're just saying, that's just on 2 acres.
Right.
3 acres, it doesn't matter. If you got a fire hydrant.
Right.
I'm new to this.
Right.
It just needs public water.
All right. Okay, looking at the agenda here, we're at the other, I think we just covered the other. Do we have any public comments?
Actually, I have something I'd like to bring forward. As you know, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. This is where you're at. So.
This is the other, I've been getting calls in the office, from those that have won the contract from 141 project, the bridge. And the road coming through, they're asking about blasting permits. So.
I guess you're bringing this up because we don't have anything that regulates blasting. do we?
No, we don't. I have asked around and no, we don't have anything in our ordinance. And I was told that typically they have them go through the state fire marshal's office, but other places do have where they would need to register with our office and we can set guidelines on what we would like to allow for them to be able to do. Now, the state part, like I said, the state is set up, you know, certain regulations that they have to follow. If you think about it, you know, they're gonna be having explosives there on site. Well, what are they gonna do with them? Yeah, how are they gonna
Now
continue?
that will be controlled by the state. Them having a box that they put them in and just withstand the explosion. I mean, up at TVA up there, the ones that put in the airbags, they have explosives and they have buildings that are built for that special.
They're called a magazine.
Yeah,
So,
they'll have the same, should have the same thing. And Jones Brothers should know that. They've done enough better.
so I did look at the city of Lebanon, so I started thinking, okay, what other counties have had to experience? You know, being able to monitor, okay, the blasting and things of that nature. I mean, we have noise ordinance here in the city limits. You know, in the county as well, well, shouldn't we also have a noise ordinance for that? Like, shouldn't we be able to limit the time that they're allowed to do that? They shouldn't be able to do it maybe, you know, early in the morning when people are trying to sleep or late at night as well. So, but the city of Lebanon does have a form that they are required to fill out that talks about all this different type of stuff and all the different people that need to be notified is like the police department, the fire department, things of that nature. I mean, yes, they're gonna have to file with the state and the state will control that too, but I think we as a county need to know when these things are gonna happen. So what are your thoughts on that?
I believe most blasting is done like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, I know when I worked with Etherly Pipeline, we done it late in the afternoon. We worked all day and we shot it. And next day we done our digging, moved on, and so we set up another one. But it was most time it was always late afternoon.
They also have on here too that I understand that no blasting is allowed within 500 feet of streams or wetlands. Polyethylene natural gas lines. things of that nature, then the stormwater department, which is, you know, us.
Or where they want to do this, state does it, except
Just
rock.
just saying,
But this is
Rock
not
and
just
brick.
for them, we're talking about going forward broad strokes here.
Yeah,
right,
but,
you know,
but now there are
being a little proactive.
trailer place out there right below it.
Mhm.
I mean, right next to it, real close.
Is it 500 feet? There,
500 feet per way.
no closer than 500 feet. That's what the one is.
50 feet from streams, 50 feet from polyethylene natural gas lines, 100 feet of steel natural gas lines.
No distance from dwellings.
Sure, there's something else regular.
Yeah,
I would say no, nothing before 8 AM. Nothing after 5 PM.
Like I said, I remember most of them were done late, already in the afternoon.
We'd have to give them guidelines, nothing before 8, nothing after 5.
well, and I also looked on the state Tennessee blasting permits. It's also talking about, describe how traffic will be routed around or stop at the blasting site. So, I mean, I think the only thing that would entail would be like, what, 25, right? Going to 110,
Starlight,
Starlight.
I mean, it's just a road, but people traveling pretty regular.
Well, there's businesses that use that too, Starlight. In order to get to them. So, you know, just food for thought, I wanted to disseminate that information because I think it's important, because they're gonna be here a while. Once they start,
Like 3-4 years.
you know, we need to get ahead of it.
Rick, were you advising the planning commission when the pipeline came through? The last pipeline came through,
Ooh, I don't remember that one, Dave.
but they would have had to do blasting when that one came through, the one that came across Sulphur College. Under 25 and then,
Yeah,
between 25 and Sulphur College.
I don't
Out
remember,
that way.
I don't remember that ever coming up.
I don't
So
remember it coming up either.
it was either before I got here or after I left, I guess, but I don't remember.
But Rosalie, there should have been something that was a process that was done then. I just don't know who to ask that far back,
When was it,
because that was.
when was that?
David, do you remember?
Well,
It's gotta be early 2000s.
Wow.
This was Metro then, though, by then.
Yeah, we were still Metro, yeah,
Oh, okay,
when it came through. Yeah, I wanna say it was somewhere in the 2000. I'm trying to remember if my daughter was born yet. So somewhere around 2005.
Mm.
When that came through.
Yeah, I started in 15.
I don't remember,
Okay.
not that long.
That would have been before Jakey West.
Yeah,
I wonder, I think the gentleman that worked on our ordinances, William Beasy,
It was good.
I think he's still,
He's in West Tennessee now.
yeah, I wonder if he would recall. I mean, I know it's been a minute, he slept since then, but. You know,
He's good.
he
He was-
may recall what transpired.
17 years ago,
Or more. Yeah,
18.
yeah. Not sure.
John Kurt might be someone to ask also,
Oh, that's good, good, good.
Yeah. Got him.
because he would have been a commissioner back then.
He was in-
I just don't remember it being an issue. I mean, I remember people complaining about it coming through, but I believe David was right. Most of the blasting took place in the afternoons. There wasn't any, nighttime blasting anyway.
No, we'll have to put a guideline out there that says nothing before 8 AM and nothing past 5 PM. Just as a broad stroke, but as a rule and guide countywide.
Yeah.
Sure. Because people respect what you inspect. trust but verify.
I worked. In Cal, I helped put water line from up 141. We never did, we done a little glass, but most of them changed it. It's ground through rock, it's just made up. It's just ground through everything.
One of the big chainsaws, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so any other public comment?
So with all this information as well, do we want to come up with some type of document that they'll need to fill out for us as well?
I would say yes, you, David.
Is that like in the form of a motion or?
Honestly, I don't know if we can, because we don't have anything on the books regulating it.
Can we start that process?
We would need to start a process to come up with, to have a commission vote on regulations for it.
I'm sure there's nobody in there that would be standing in opposition, even the crazies.
Yeah, I mean, just to be able to put something down on paper to put before the commission and say, hey, do y'all think this is reasonable? Just to protect ourselves against, this situation.
He could. Maybe look at one that Devin has, kind
Yeah.
of give them an
And we
idea.
can tighten up on times and distances,
Mhm.
Chase that back to their ordinance.
Got it.
and then we'll take a look from there. But David, yeah, I agree with her. We do need to start moving forward on that. We need to get
Yeah,
something
because
put
they're
together
really-
that we can bring to the body.
They really won't start, I think.
I think we was mentioning because I was kind of saying, well, I'm new. And I'll look into this. I said, but what are you thinking? What are your plans? When are you going to start?
Clips, 2 pieces of clips sitting on my property, right next to my property, ready to go.
All right. We may not be able to affect this one, but we can future.
Project, we've all waited so long to get it started. But yeah, I agree that there needs to be some sort of local, restriction protections for the community.
As a courtesy, she can have them fill out a sheet similar to this.
Mhm.
And as a courtesy, we can say nothing before 8 and nothing after 5. As a courtesy, until we can get something drawn up for future.
Yeah, I mean.
And then we can
if
mandate
we
it.
Say it that way, Rosalie, and, they say, yeah, that's great, that's fine, but if they balk back at it, you really don't have a leg to stand on, you just have to say, okay. Unless it's a violation of a state, issue.
Got it. And I'll definitely have the state information there. And I'll like to see their paperwork where they filed with the state fire marshal's office. And they have certificate of insurance and all of that good
And I
stuff.
think that part of our documentation for this, we should have a copy of. All the stuff that's happening in our county, so we need to have a copy of all their certificate of insurance, how they permitted this through the state fire marshal's office. We should have their plan,
Yes,
a copy of it.
yes. Traffic control, the whole 9 yards. And point of contact.
And that point of contact information needs to be forwarded to the fire marshal.
Yep. And the water and sewer.
Yep.
Everybody.
So, yeah, this is gonna have to be something we have to take up right away.
Do we need to have another meeting this month?
David,
Yeah, we can try to shoot for something towards the end of the month. Give us some time to get some stuff together.
so I'm looking at the county committee calendar right now, Google Calendar.
Yeah,
Back into this month.
looks pretty open.
It does. Are you thinking maybe the 25th?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at. Does that work for everyone?
What day of the week is that? please?
Thursday?
That's the third day.
Okay,
I've got one on the 29th, I believe, with the EMS.
So the 25th at 7 o'clock,
Sound
does that
good?
work for everyone?
Mhm.
I'll get with Amy and get it penciled in.
Perfect. All right, is there anything else to come before us? Before we proceed to close? All right, then I'll take a motion for adjournment. Yeah, it's not debated. We have another, well, I think we need a second on that one, do we? David, thank you for attending. I hope you get to feeling better.
Well, thank you.